It's strange how silence can feel so loud when you're alone. In that sterile hospital bed, surrounded by beeping machines and the distant footsteps of strangers, I began to hear the whispers of my own soul. I realized how much I had neglected the simple moments in life and how precious they truly are when everything else is stripped away. The hospital bed became both a prison and a sanctuary. In those quiet moments, I was forced to confront my fears, my regrets, and the things I had been running from for so long. Alone, I had nowhere to hide from myself, and that was both terrifying and liberating. When you're alone in a hospital room, the world outside seems so far away. It's as if time slows down and you're left to ponder the things that matter most: your relationships, your purpose, and whether you've truly lived in a way how that aligns with who you are at the core. It was in those long, lonely hours that I realized how fragile life truly is. One moment, I was living my everyday life, and the next, I was lying in a bed, questioning whether I would ever walk again, let alone experience the world the same way. The fear was overwhelming, but so was the clarity that came with it. In the stillness of the hospital room, I found myself thinking about all the things I had put off, the dreams I'd shelved, the words I hadn't said, the love I hadn't fully expressed. It was a wake-up call that forced me to reassess what I truly valued in life. Sometimes it's only when we are stripped of our comfort, our distractions, and our routines that we can truly hear ourselves. In that hospital bed, I wasn't just recovering from a physical ailment. I was healing parts of my spirit I didn't even know needed attention. The loneliness of the hospital room felt endless. It wasn't just the absence of people, it was the absence of certainty, of normalcy. But in that uncertainty, I discovered a deeper strength within myself, a resilience I didn't know I had. There is something profoundly humbling about lying alone in a hospital bed, dependent on others for care, vulnerable and exposed. It made me reflect on how often we take our health for granted and how fleeting our sense of control over life can be. The days blurred together, but in the quiet, I found peace. There was no noise of the outside world, no pressure to be anything or do anything. I was simply there, in that moment, and for once, I allowed myself to just exist without judgment. I spent hours staring at the ceiling, wondering if the life I had lived up to that point was the life I truly wanted. When everything else is stripped away, you're left to face the raw truth of your existence, what you've done, what you haven't, and what you still hope to achieve. Being alone in that hospital bed made me realize that we often fill our lives with noise and distractions. But the truth is, when we are still, we can hear our own hearts more clearly. And in those quiet moments, I realized how much I had neglected to listen to my inner voice. In the silence of the hospital room, I could feel the weight of time. Every second seemed to stretch on forever, and yet it was only in this moment that I understood how precious each moment truly is. I had been wasting so much time chasing things that didn't matter. Being alone in that hospital bed was like being in a cocoon, waiting to emerge as something new. I didn't know what the future would hold, but I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't go back to the person I was before. I had to evolve, to grow, to heal. I often found myself asking the question, what is my purpose? In the solitude of the hospital, I realized that my purpose wasn't something that could be found outside of me. It was something I had to create, something I had to discover in the quiet moments of reflection. There were moments when the pain was unbearable, but it wasn't just the physical pain. It was the emotional ache of feeling disconnected from life, from the world, from myself. Yet, even in the deepest sorrow, I found moments of clarity that were unlike anything I had ever known. In that hospital bed, I faced the fear of not knowing if I would ever be the same again. But as I sat in that fear, something shifted inside me. I realized that the person I was before wasn't the person I had to be afterward. Healing wasn't just about fixing what was broken. It was about discovering a new way of being. The walls of the hospital room felt like they were closing in on me, but in that confined space, I found the freedom to think. The outside world could no longer distract me from the inner work I had been avoiding for so long. In the silence, I began to hear my own thoughts clearly for the first time.